If the idea is essentially I should be able to crawl the network with any degree of vigor I like, and anything I find about you is fair game for me as an employer to review, that's problematic.
It's online, but is it public information? We're going to figure out where we draw the boundaries of privacy in the online age.
Once it hits the internet, there's no saying where it's gone.
It's public. It's like leaving your diary lying on the park bench.
I don't think that employers should be reading Facebook or MySpace.
Stuff that I don't think I'd want my employer or my school to see.
Social networks such as MySpace and Facebook are becoming vast repositories of immensely personal data.
It's just the explicitness of the information that's a weird part of the current change.
Clay Shirky teaches new media at New York University, and he says social networks are profoundly changing the definition of what we consider private.
And interestingly, the defaults for all of these things are set to increase social awareness. It's not we're defaulting to private and we're letting you make it public. We're defaulting to public and letting you make it private.
Shirky's thoughts are more than just notes scribbled in a lecture hall. The industry insider turned professor is often called on for advice by major companies such as Microsoft and the BBC. We sat down with Clay to discuss the impact that social networks are having on privacy.
What are we going to say as a society about looking in on other people's lives? If you show up at a job interview and they say, oh, well, we've been following you on Facebook, I'm not sure that that's something, the employer's argument, in as much as they've been looking at Facebook, is anything that is accessible to me is also acceptable to me. And that seems unsupportable as a social bargain. If you go down to the mall on any given day, you can find a group of teenagers hanging out in the food court. Mm-hmm. And yeah, you can sit next to them and listen in, but you're the weird one in that situation.
Right.
And so in the real world, we carve out lots of places where you're in public, but you're not in public, right? If you were to sit up here with a shotgun microphone and point it down at Rockefeller Center and be listening in on people's conversations, well, they were out at Rockefeller Center, right? How public is that?
Right. What expectation of privacy did they have?
Exactly right. And yet, if they knew that someone was listening in with a shotgun mic, they'd be a little weirded out.
Yeah.
And I think that sense, right, it's where what the technology makes possible is colliding with our social sense of this kind of semi-public, semi-private sphere. That's what's being contested, right? That's what's being fought over. The most seriously negative consequence of this is if somehow as a society we don't carve out some space for documented personal action that's okay, then we will really have robbed young people of something they won't even know they're missing,
right?
Because they never leave the net of surveillance.
There is a flip side: the vast crowd of aspiring web celebs who want to get their face plastered across the web.
I put my headshots up there, and I've been cast off Facebook and stuff like that. So, I mean, there's two sides of it. I'm just really incredibly careful with things like that.
And for professional bloggers, the transparency of the social network becomes part of the act.
Some people say, the more that you let people in, the wider your audience, the stronger your following. There's some truth in that. For me, it's about something different. It's about the money. If I'm paid more, then I'll disclose more.
So what do you think? Should everything you post online be accessible to anyone, anytime? Or should there be defined areas of privacy? You can vote at Switch.com. In the meantime, check out the next episode of The Switch Show, where we'll travel to Japan. Or actually, we'll talk to somebody who did travel to Japan, but yeah, it's the same thing.